Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Meyka. Today I'm here with your math lesson. Today we're actually doing something very similar to what you did last week. We are going to solve for area, for perimeter, and for unknown side length. So you guys have already did this. You know the equations, you know the steps, you know what to do. But we are going to be reading word problems. And so we need to find out what we are actually looking for so we can solve our problem, okay? And so I kind of wrote down some keywords that might help you when you were reading our word problems today. So usually if we're looking for perimeter, we are going to see the words around or edges or border, okay? Some words that you might see if we are solving for area are surface, floor space, or wall space. And some words that you might see for if we have to look for a side length are of, length, and width, right? Okay, so now I'm going to read our first word problem, okay? A garden has the shape of a hexagon. Each side of the garden is 5 feet long. How much fence is needed to go around the garden? Okay, so something that I like to do when I read word problems is first read it more than one time. Okay, so I'm going to read each sentence again one by one, and as I read each sentence, I'm going to draw, okay? And I'm also thinking, which words do I hear? Do I hear any of these words that can give me a clue to which formula I'm going to use? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to read it again. A garden has the shape of a hexagon. Okay, so right away I know I need to draw a hexagon. Okay, so a hexagon has 6 sides, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I have my hexagon. And now it says each side of the garden is 5 feet long. So each side, I'm just going to write the number 5 next to each side. So I know I'm not looking for an unknown side because I know all the sides. Now the question says, how much fence is needed to go around the garden? Okay, so when I read this, the word around sticks out to me, right? When I look at my list of words, I have around here under perimeter. So I am going to use the formula for perimeter. Okay, so I know that perimeter, what I have to do is just add my sides, right? So I need to add all the sides, 5, 6 times, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can just count by 5s, right, to get my answer. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So the perimeter of this hexagon is 30 feet. Is 30 feet. Okay. So there's one example. I know word problems are a little bit trickier, so I would like to do a couple more with you guys together, okay? So I have this next one here. Okay. Zach is planning to make a flower garden. He has 24 one-yard sections of fence that he plans to place around the garden. He wants the garden to be as long as possible. What is the longest length he can use for the garden? Okay, so I actually already wrote here. Okay, so Zach is planning. So remember the first thing, I need to reread my problem, okay? So Zach is planning to make a flower garden. Okay. He has 24 1-yard sections of fence that he plans to place around the garden. Okay, so 24 1-yard sections around the garden. Okay, so this here tells me that the perimeter is 24. Okay, so I'm going to keep reading and see what other information I find. He wants the garden to be as long as possible. What is the longest length he can use for the garden? Okay, so if he wants to make his garden really long, I imagine it's going to look something like this. So I have 24, right? This side plus this side plus this side plus this side equals 24. Okay, so I want to use as little as possible on both sides. So I'm just going to put a 1 here. And because I put a 1 here, I know I also need to put a 1 here. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So I'm going to take my perimeter of 24, and now I'm going to subtract 2. Okay? So now I have 22. And I know that both of these sides are also the same, which means that I need to divide, right? So now I'm going to divide 22 by 2. So if I divide 22 by 2, I know that each side will be 11. Okay, so what is the longest length he can use for the garden? And it is 11 yards, 11 yard sections. Okay. Okay, so that is this one. And right here, I was solving for the length, right? So length, we know, is one of the sides, right? Okay, and I have one more that I would like to do with you. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is read the problem. Amy has a piece of fleece fabric that is 4 feet wide and 6 feet long. How many squares of fleece fabric that are 1 foot wide and 1 foot long can she cut from the fabric? Okay, so remember the first thing that I need to do is reread each sentence carefully. Okay? As I'm reading, I'm listening for these words, and then I'm going to draw. Okay? Amy has a piece of fleece fabric that is 4 feet wide and 6 feet long. Okay, so this is my fabric. Let's see, this is my fabric. Okay, so I have 4 feet wide and 6 feet long. Okay. How many squares of fleece fabric that are 1 foot wide and 1 foot long can she cut from the fabric? So if I have a bunch of little squares here, right? If I break this up, say this is 1 foot 1 by 1. Okay. How many squares, right? Remember this word, also this word squares also tells me that I'm working with area. Okay, so 6 times 4, or 4 times 6, is 24, and then squares. Okay? Okay, so remember the steps to take today, right? You have to read your problem once, okay? Then go back, read each sentence again carefully, okay? Listen for key words, okay? If the question asks about length, about width, if you hear the word floor space, wall space, surface area, okay, then you probably need to use the formula for area. If you hear the word around, edges, border, then it is probably asking you for the perimeter. Okay, I hope that helps, and that is your task for today.